Good afternoon, Sergeant Torres, and good afternoon, class. My name is Corporal Colon, and today I will be providing you with an unclassified informative brief. Before we begin, there are a couple of risks we need to be mindful of. Please be aware we are in an indoor environment, and there may be uneven surfaces due to rugs. Please be mindful of any cords or wires moving about the room, and in the event of a fire, the emergency exit is to my left. We are a green army, so please leave the space cleaner than you found it. Finally, in the event of an active shooter, we will take shelter in the bathroom and barricade the door. The overall risk for this environment is low. Does anyone have any questions or concerns regarding this risk assessment? No? Okay. The foundations of Army leadership have evolved alongside the Army for the last 245 years. This informative brief will educate you on the past, present, and future Army leadership foundations. There will be 3 parts of this brief: the introduction, body, and closing. Following the brief, I will answer any questions, so please save all your questions until the end. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines foundation as a basis upon which something stands or is supported. The Army Doctrine publication 6-22 defines leadership as the following. Leadership, the lifeblood of the Army, makes a difference every day in the United States Army. Since the formation of the Continental Army until today, with soldiers deployed around the globe, Army leaders have accepted the challenge before them. The United States Army has always had great leaders who have risen above hardships and have drawn on range of leadership qualities to influence soldiers, build units, and accomplish the mission. Leadership is characterized by a complex mix of organizational, situational, and mission demands on a leader who applies personal qualities, abilities, and experiences to exert influence on the organization, its people, the situation, and the unfolding mission. Difficult and complex situations are the providing ground for leaders expected to make consistent, timely, effective, and just decisions. An Army leader is anyone who, by virtue of assumed role or assigned responsibility, inspires or influences people to accomplish organizational goals. Army leaders motivate people both inside and outside the chain of command to pursue action, focus thinking, and shape decisions for the greater good of the organization. This doctrine was first published in 1948. One of the key takeaways from the ADP is that the Army sees leadership as a process, something you can learn, monitor, and develop further as the Army continuously changes. As we all know, Army leadership is structured around ranks, which fall into either the enlisted or the officer side. Ranks such as general and captain were titles used in the early 1700s, well before the official establishment of the Army, and are still used today. The Army was established in June of 1775, and even during its early phases, the non-commissioned officer, or NCO role, was starting to be mapped out. At this point, there was little documentation on the specifics of the role, and it was not until 1909 when the first NCO guide was published. The first leadership school for NCOs did not take place until June 1947, almost 200 years after the Army came to be. Next came the Warrant Officer Corps in 1918. Warrant officers are trained to be subject matter experts in specific MOSs such as a pilot. The Reserve Officer Training Corps program, or ROTC, was solidified in 1986 into the Forge Gold Battalion. Upon successful completion of this program, soldiers commission as second lieutenants. The 3 potential leadership paths a soldier can take are enlisted, the NCO route, they can commission through the ROTC or Officer Candidacy School, or they can become a warrant officer. There is one specific field manual that acts as a single source reference for all Army leaders, and that is Field Manual 22-100. This manual was released in 1985 and is constantly being modified. The field manual lays out 2 reasons why leadership is so important in the Army. The first is based on a quote by General of the Army Douglas MacArthur. "Your mission is to win our wars. You are the ones trained to fight. Yours is the profession of arms, the will to win, the sure knowledge that in war there is no substitute for victory, that if you lose, the nation will be destroyed." The second is that the mission cannot be completed unless there are leaders that strive to be the best they can be, because your people deserve nothing less. Army leadership has always been based off putting soldiers first, striving for excellence, and leading by example. Those three things help to make up the foundation that Army leadership was formed on. The NCO, officer, warrant officer, and ROTC program are all part of the leadership structure that makes up the United States Army and upholds these values and traditions. Let's fast forward to present-day Army leadership, and it's no surprise that that foundation laid so many years ago still follows the same lines. Although the Army leaders are held to a much higher standard of accountability, the same rank structure is still in place. There was just an addition of several more ranks since then, such as First Sergeant, Sergeant First Class, Sergeant Major, to name a few. Many of the ranks have been solidified through time and have a clear purpose and contribution to the mission. Soldiers follow the leadership requirement model and the guidelines listed in Army Doctrine Publication 6-22 and Field Manual 22-100. The Army has a leadership school for every rank above E4, which helps train soldiers to get them to that next level. Some of these leadership courses are mostly digital and use online platforms such as Blackboard. Leadership is not a trait that people are born with. It is one that's developed over time. Each rank and school allows soldiers to develop these skills further. The year 2020 brought about even more changes for Army leadership and is a look into the future of where the Army is headed. With the massive movements such as the Soldier 2020 campaign to integrate women into combat military occupational specialties, or MOSs, the Army will start to see more females in leadership roles within these MOSs, such as the infantry. The Army is constantly reevaluating and adjusting based on the way the world is moving. In the near future, the Army is rolling out the Army Combat Fitness Test, or ACFT, which is an upgrade from the current physical fitness test and focuses more on building the right muscles for MOS-specific needs and reducing injuries. This will also help leaders stay in better physical shape and better prepare them for combat-related tasks. The Army is also rolling out programs that will help soldiers better transition when they retire or are finished with their service. Leaders are expected to stay up to date with the future of the Army to better help their squads adjust to these changes. In conclusion, there are many levels of Army leadership that are continuously evolving, all of which are based on the same foundation from 1775 when the Army was first established. Leaders today are held to higher standards, and the leadership role is continuously changing alongside the fast-changing world. The NCO, officer, and warrant officer are all pieces of the puzzle that make up the Army leadership structure. No matter what direction the Army moves, there's a solid foundation of leadership for it to expand on. Are there any questions pertaining to the topics that we just discussed? No? Okay. This concludes my unclassified brief about the foundations of Army leadership. Thank you.